All right, we are live, guys. Sorry for the delay. For those of you not watching on YouTube right now, if you're listening to the podcast, should have started the stream almost 10 minutes ago. So sorry for the delay. We hope it's worth the wait, and welcome back to another episode of The Deep End. This is number 31, and as always, I'm here with my main man, Mr. Gutman. All right, what's up, man? How are you today?
Oh man, all is going well. I want to start off by saying my account rose. I'm at 304,000, a little over. So I'm excited about that. We're trucking along, and a lot of good macro news bites came out that I think just pushed us right back over the top. So it's been exciting. I have some trips planned next week and the week following, and bringing me to the end of the month. I'm gonna get some R&R time in there, man. I got a great couple of weeks ahead of me, and I'm optimistic about the market. So I couldn't be doing better. And I also got to say, I'm throwing Blossom right now, man. Blossom, the go-to community for all investors, which, by the way, the Deep End is 110% powered by Blossom. So if you're not on Blossom, get on there. The reason why I'm bringing Blossom on up right now is because I'm so stoked about the community that we're involved with, Ryan. When I start to post more in Blossom and all the DMs coming in, it's just so exciting to be more involved in a community where everybody is striving to reach their financial goals. And I've been connecting with so many great people. So all in all, man, I'm having such a terrific week, amazing conversations, a beautiful 2 weeks ahead of me planned. But what's going on with you?
Man, things are really good over here. Earlier this week, I think we came into the week seeing a little bit of a pullback compared to last week. I think my portfolio dipped down to around 101,000. So in the span of a few days, we lost, and maybe we talked about this last week, I don't remember, but in the span of a few days, I was down like $2,000-$3,000, but it has since recovered. We're actually sitting at all-time highs right now. As we're recording this, I'm up just over $105,000. So
Go,
yeah, we're continuing to chug along, man. And it's crazy to think, like, what's it been? 3 weeks, maybe, since I hit 100,000 in the portfolio, and we're already, about 5% of the way, just past 5% to the next 100K. So it's true what they
Club
say.
momentum.
Yeah, man, it is true what they say. It really does. The momentum really does pick up, and the needle does seem to move in a lot more meaningful of a way once you hit that 100K. And I know inflation, guys, 100K is not what it used to be, sure, but still, I'm feeling it over here. I'm loving it, and I should probably knock on wood because things have been good. They've been a bit too good lately. And granted, like I said, we've seen a slight pullback, but I don't know. I'm kind of starting to think things have been a bit too good. Maybe something is bound to happen. I don't know. And I have no basis for that. It just, I kind of get that way when things have been too good for a certain amount of time. I think, okay, feels like we're probably about due, even if there's nothing no catalyst for that. It's just kind of a feeling I get. You know what I mean?
Well, the reality is we can't always be on the climb, so we gotta at least here and there stumble in some volatility. But overall, as we all know, as long-term investors, when you zoom out and you just see the performance of the market overall over 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, we're looking at a climb. So be in the market, be invested, and enjoy the volatility. I enjoyed a little bit in the beginning of the week. As you mentioned, there was some volatility. We were slipping and sliding. We had some tariff news come out, and I think people got a little worried again with Trump and tariffs. But at the end of the day, I think we are heading in a phenomenal direction. And I think the market is just very optimistic. I think tech is going to continue to soar. I think we spoke about that a little bit last go round here in the Deep End. But I'm very, very bullish and optimistic on tech. And speaking of actually, because I was just sitting down before we jumped on here and looking over some of the dividends that came in. And, from this past month, I'm saying to myself, man, what happened to my dividend portfolio? It's a dividend growth portfolio at this point. But even then, as I'm strategizing and game planning, which we spoke about as well last video a little bit, about my next moves for the remainder of the year and into 2026, what's it going to look like? So we can get into a little bit of that. I'm actually going to make my Sunday video about this very topic because it's interesting. I think I'm just at an interesting point. And I had a really good conversation, by the way. The next Masters of the Market chat, I had interviewed somebody who actually very inspiring. He was investing in his 401k for a very long time until he realized that balance fund in his 401k was doing almost nothing for him. And so he started managing it himself, threw it all into the S&P, did really well, and basically he's going to retire, a millionaire. He's already a millionaire now. But how did he do it? All through the lens of simplicity. Anyways, me and him got to talking after the Masters of the Market chat, which is very typical. Just like me and you talked before we jump on, we'd be opposite for Masters. But wow, I was just blown away by, the simplicity, and I asked him just a couple of questions because he's 55, I think he is. 55 or almost 55. And I always like to ask older investors, like, hey, what are some of your takeaways over all this time, in life and experience that you've had working in the professional world, investing, and he shared with me that he would have been more aggressive, obviously, invested first and foremost in his early 20s, 30s, 40s, but also that I'm on the right track, which, not that I need the stamp of approval, but it's always nice to hear because sometimes I get the pushback from the dividend investor community, right? And I'm like, oh, maybe I question things, but I'm like, no, it doesn't matter.
You mean, sorry to cut you off, but you mean you get the pushback in the sense of people saying, oh, he's not a dividend investor, or is it something else?
Yeah, well, it's like he's not a dividend investor because the guy's got a couple stocks that aren't dividend payers, or he's more growth oriented in terms of dividend growth. And I know all the comments will probably flow in the comments down there saying like, oh, well, yeah, that's true. You're a dividend growth investor or just a growth investor, whatever it is. I'm an investor. All right. At this point, I have dividend stocks. I focus on dividend stocks, whatever you want to define me as, all good. But I'm really stoked about the strategy moving forward. Pleasantly surprised about the dividends that came in this month. I know we wanted to talk all about that. So I've done enough talking for a few minutes. Let me throw the ball over to you. I'm going to take a sip of water and listen to the dividend income that came out on your side.
Sure. I'll run through my payments from July real quick. But before I get into that, I want to hear from you guys too in the chat. Let us know what some of your highest dividend payments from this last month were and which stocks they came from. It'd be really cool to see that. Also in the chat too, you guys later on, kind of once we get through this, we'll go through your questions. We'll go through your comments. So if you've got any investing questions for us, I see one from Fast Eddie here. If you have any questions for us that you'd like us to address in this episode, just drop them here in the live chat. As they come in, we'll save them and we will go through them one by one. But, as far as my dividend income goes, it was a pretty decent month of income. I'd say we kicked it off last month with a nice payment from VOO. And I'm actually very interested to see what your VOO payment looked like. Because I know you have a much, much, much larger position than I do.
Big dividends, baby.
Yeah. So I got about $23 from VOO, which was a nice way to kick off the month. KRC, one of the four real estate investment trusts that I own. And I got paid by all four in July too, just spoiler alert. But KRC paid me $41.60 about a week after VOO. So that's pretty solid. Vici Properties paid me my second biggest dividend of the month. That would be $62.71. So we're starting to get, it's actually pretty cool just as a sidebar. I feel like I'm getting to the point with some of these where I'm starting to get some pretty meaningful payments, it's just really cool to see. And speaking of meaningful payments, this next one was the biggest that I received in July. This one was from Blue Owl Capital Corporation, a business development company, who paid me $67.12. So just a few dollars more than what I got from Vici. But even just those four so far, we're sitting at 130, 170, almost $200, maybe just about $200, just under, with those four payments there. And then I also got one from WP Carey, which was the third out of four REITs that paid in July, 34.30. And actually, another sidebar, sorry guys. Since we last talked, I did eventually sell out of Starbucks, which all of you guys probably already know. I put out a video on it yesterday. But one of the things that I've been doing with some of those proceeds is I've started buying WP Carey again. I've been really pleased with their last few quarterly earnings reports. And so I think this, this was a relatively small position, so I had room to build it up. I figured now was a decent time to do so. So anyway, I picked up some more WP Carey. So the next dividend payment in October is going to be very nice. But Realty Income also paid me last month, as they do every month. That was $29, almost $30. And then Main Street Capital Corporation also paid me. And these last four, Blue Owl, WP Carey, Realty Income, and Main Street, all paid on July 15th. With that Main Street payment, which was about $14.30 or so, just that one day on the 15th was, let me crunch the numbers here, 90, 111, no, 101 plus 29, so 130. That was about $145 just in one day. And I could be wrong, but I think that's my all-time, July 15th would have been my all-time like highest day of dividends ever. $145, almost 150 in a day without having to lift a finger, which is very cool. But in total, with all these payments, all seven of these, right? All seven, that brought my total to $272.58 for July, which is just slightly below my average. I think at this point, my average monthly income is about $290. So it was, just a hair below that. All in all, pretty solid month. I'll take it.
You came in around 290, huh?
About 272.58 was the total. 290 is about my monthly average.
Okay.
And so it was just slightly below that monthly average, but still $270. I'm happy with that.
Not too shabby, Ryan. Not too shabby.
Yeah.
I had
Thank you,
had a much simpler month. It's funny. I was sitting here listening to you go through all your dividend stocks that paid you out, and it just reminded me of Andre Jake.
Oh, that's
when he
cool.
used to get on there and go through this whole list. This paid me, this paid me, this paid. And I have a much shorter, simpler list, but I'm really happy to say that I've generated close enough to where you're at. So let me just kick it off. My good old S&P 500 position there, covering, again, the S&P 500, as simple as it gets. $239.36.
Holy cow.
So that
Dude,
just about places me.
You're rocking about 130 shares or so then? Is my math right on that? Jeez, man. Unreal.
Look, let me keep going here. And I didn't bring in that much more. Okay. So
okay.
NVIDIA paid me a cool 25 cents.
Don't spend it all in one place.
How much is a gumball these days? Is that still a thing?
I'm sure it is.
Quarter in a gumball machine? I don't know. Yeah. I haven't seen one in a while.
I'm sure it's still a quarter because you can't.
I'm
sure it's still a quarter. Yeah,
it's like one Bitcoin now today.
Yeah.
And then just for having money in the Vanguard settlement fund, which, by the way, I would really make sure that every single one of you out there has a settlement fund that's actually investing that cash for you and you're getting a nice payout from it. Because what I personally like to do is keep money on the sidelines within that settlement fund in case I need to move it around quickly, but more importantly, because I know I'm actually making income from it. That brought me to $10.66 just from having money in the settlement fund. Usually I have a lot more. I think this in July I had a couple thousand in there, so not too bad. All in all, I came in at 250.27. Nice,
man.
So
look, that's still like such a crazy VOO payment. I can't even believe that.
And I want to talk about that real quick because, and if anyone who's going to tune in this upcoming Monday for that Masters chat I did, you will see firsthand the real power of just investing in the S&P 500, literally just the S&P 500, and keeping it that simple. You not only become a millionaire with that path, and this guy did it in like 10, 15 years. You can hear about his story. I think my big takeaway from that was how much like dividend income he was bringing in from just investing into the S&P. You really don't need to outthink this thing.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here now and I'm like, it's really exciting to see all the dividend stocks pay you out. And when I went through, my month the other day, because I was like, oh, let me go down and see how many dividend stocks paid me out. I was like 3. So not even right. I had the ETF and then one stock pay me out and then a settlement fund.
Yeah.
So overall, right, I had 3 sources of income come in. But at the end of the day, I'm happy that I at least came close to you.
Dude, yeah, you did fantastic. I was going to ask, what do you think about, because I get comments like this type of comment all the time. I'm sure you do as well. What do you think about the comments that are like, hey, can you tell me a stock that pays a dividend in this month? Or I'm trying to get dividends every single month. What are the best monthly payers? What do you think about the idea of trying to, I guess this is going to be the best way to phrase it, but you'll know what I mean. What do you think about trying to like force monthly dividends and doing things just based on a certain payment schedule? What do you think about that type of approach? Do you know what I'm trying
Amateur.
to ask?
Yeah, I think it's an investment strategy of an amateur.
Oh, okay.
Well, are you planning to do that?
No,
No.
no. I go ahead. Go ahead.
The reason I say that, and first of all, I just interviewed someone 2 weeks ago, and his whole deal was, I'm gonna get dividends every day. I'm going to invest in, ETFs that pay me every week and then every day. And then he was like, literally, he actually accomplished that, getting paid every day from investing in all of these income funds, until he realized that it was actually hurting him and not benefiting him. And then he came to the same realization that I eventually came to, which is that less is more. And if you have a high quality, whether it's an income producing fund or just a classic traditional dividend stock, high quality, double down, triple down, quadruple down, scale that baby up. It's going to pay you out and it's quality. You won't need to worry about it versus trying to, get paid every day for what? For what?
Yeah. That's a great point. And I understand the want to get those payments coming in every single day or every single month or as frequent as possible, really. I do understand that. But I think if you are kind of like you were saying, I think you're looking at it backwards. I think if you're starting with the calendar in mind, you're already doing it wrong. And you touched on something really important. I think it has to start and end with the quality of the investment. You can't, in the same way that you can't buy something just based on the dividend yield or the dividend stats in general, you can't buy something based on when they pay out a dividend. And like I said, I get these questions all the time. What are the best monthly payers? My response is always like, well, why specifically do you want the monthly? Why do you need a monthly payer? I know the answer. It's because they want monthly dividends, but really, like at the
Dividend
root of
dope,
that,
man.
yeah, at the root of that question is like is really me saying like it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. And this even applies. I mean, I've got a couple monthly payers in my portfolio. Main Street Capital Corporation, Realty Income are both monthly payers, and Realty Income, they have branded themselves as the monthly dividend company. And I do like this company, but I'll be honest, I don't know that I particularly agree with that type of emphasis. I think that you are emphasizing the wrong things if you want that to be what you're known for. And I think with that said, that type of branding yourself as that is really just a marketing gimmick more than anything. And I think beyond Realty Income or other monthly payers, we're starting to see that as a selling point with, I don't want to get into this because it's going to be get into it super deep because it is going to be a can of worms. But you see that now with these weekly paying ETFs. It's the same thing. It's just a marketing gimmick used to reel investors in.
I think there is a real thing out there called the dividend junkie, and they're looking for dividend dope. And I think if you're out, I mean, think about it. It's if you're out there looking for your dopamine, your dividend dopamine, and I'll just classify you as a dividend junkie. What you're going to end up with is a bunch of stocks that pay you on the weekly basis, or you're chasing the yield, you're chasing something. This is not a chase, right? This is about wealth creation and ultimately reaching your financial goals. And so if I sit down with an investor and I say, why do you want to invest? And they say, because I want to make a lot of money. I'm like, you shouldn't be in this space. Or like, I don't know what I always go back to like the basic question of why are you doing what you're doing? And when I say investing, I mean investing into individual stocks, because you'll get these guys creating these portfolios of 60 stocks, 70 stocks, 80 stocks. Like there's ETFs for that. Just pick an ETF. You don't need to complicate it anymore. And probably you're not going to pick better stocks and be able to watch all those stocks more so than somebody who's already doing that because they're paid to do that. Or just have it be passively managed, right? Like you just can't outsmart this thing. And so I think the moment you start to outsmart it, and then you ask that person, why are you investing? And they're like, I want to be a millionaire by, a year from now or 2 years from now. We're all on, right, the grind, the journey to wealth creation, to retiring early, to financial freedom. We get it. But some of us are going to get there with legitimate strategy, and others are, going to try to get there through, again, chasing the yield, chasing the dividends. How much income can I get now? And those investors who are younger, who are chasing all that income with these crazy yields, I'm not here to say you're not going to hit the goals, but I think you'll be pleasantly surprised over time the impact that can have on you and where you could be if you actually invested according to your profile. Not saying don't have any income, producing ETFs, or don't have any dividend stocks in the portfolio. I'm just saying that over the course of time, if you're younger and have that opportunity to be more invested into dividend growth or growth stocks, you will get to the goal much faster.
Yeah, we've talked about this before, but I think in just dividend or not dividend, I think investing in growing assets is a non-negotiable. Otherwise, what's the point? What's the point of putting your money into something that's not going to be bigger and better tomorrow than it is today? I don't know.
I like what Jake, I might butcher this last name here.
Mazoka?
Mazoka. Yeah, that's true. They're the frosting on top of the entire cake. It's not why you invest in a stock, and we learned that lesson years ago. You don't invest into a high paying dividend stock because it pays a high yield. You invest in a company that's going to perform well over time. Then they pay the dividend. If that's a prerequisite for your portfolio, then you're only going to look at the dividend paying stocks, but you still have to go for the quality of the company.
Right. So Gabe has a good question here. And this is another one that often
You
gets
speak
asked.
about this often, don't you?
Yeah, man. Well, yeah, it's a good, it would make sense to think that this is true, what Gabe is asking. So Gabe says, does reinvesting your dividends compound faster or sooner when it's reinvested weekly or monthly versus quarterly or semi-annually? So you would think, like, without knowing any better, you would think that it could make a big difference to get the dividend, reinvest it, get the dividend sooner or more frequently, reinvest it, and have it have a bigger impact on your portfolio over time. But it actually doesn't. If all else is equal, if we just projected the growth of a portfolio into the future, which you could do if you go to like the marketbeat.com dividend calculator, just Google that, you can test this out for yourself. If you project the growth of a portfolio into the future and, just make all of the variables the same except for the payment frequency, if the only thing you change is the payment frequency, you will come to find that a monthly reinvestment versus like a quarterly reinvestment will have a difference, but it is negligible.
Phenomenal.
Like over the course of 20 years, we might be talking like a few $1,000s, so really not enough to make a difference whatsoever. Certainly not enough to base your investment strategy around the timing that you get your dividends paid out. And one of the other reasons that people like let me take a step back. I'm getting ahead of myself here. This thought right here, the thought that it does make a difference, is one of the reasons people claim for wanting monthly dividend paying stocks, because they think it will have a bigger impact on the compounding effect or the snowball effect. But it's negligible, like I said. Another reason that people like monthly payouts or weekly payouts is just for the sake of budgeting. They like to have that consistent monthly income because it's easier for them to budget. But I'm still like, same thing. I think seriously, like, okay, $3 a quarter is the same thing as $1 every single month. You can't budget for that. You're building you have embarked on a journey to build a 7+ figure portfolio, and you can't budget like quarterly expenses versus monthly expenses. You can't figure that one out, huh? To me, it doesn't. Maybe that's kind of harsh, but to me, it just doesn't compute.
It's a siren going by, so I'm just.
Sounds like the ice cream man.
Yeah. Nah, I already got
coming
my
to drop
cream
off your Ben and Jerry's.
I actually got Crunch ice cream bars in there for tonight.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, man,
I love
you gotta
Crunch.
switch it up. You gotta switch it up.
Do you have I just went on quite the tangent. Do you have any thoughts before we move on to this question here?
No, I agree. I agree with what you said, and to be honest, man, I've seen you make so many videos on that very topic. I think there's no better person to ask about it than you.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that. So Spartacus has a pretty good question here too. Is there not an exception to pursuing high yields? I'm retired. Is it not worth it? What do you think about that?
It is absolutely worth it for the right person. The profile matters. The profile matters. The profile matters. I say that all the time. If somebody is retired, they have a different need than someone who is in their early 20s, 30s, 40s. And if you are, I mean, first of all, you can use the 4% rule if you're invested in growth stocks. But if you are invested and you do need that income and you want to have dividend paying stocks help you with that income cash flow, then higher yields certainly do matter. But there's still something that every investor out there has to be at least aware of. And if you're not aware of what I'm about to say, you're going to be in deep trouble. If you're invested specifically in the higher yielding income producing ETFs of today that has everybody jazzed up the wazoo, those ETFs, read the prospectus, those ETFs, all of them are created essentially to be reset daily and to be monitored as frequently as you can. They're volatile. They're volatile because they're playing off of an underlying position. Maybe it's a Tesla. I don't know. Maybe it's a Palantir. Just a couple of the names coming to me right now. But you got to watch them. And so I'm not against them at all. I think someone actually, who said, I read a comment that was like, Ari's against income investors. And I'm like, no, I'm not against income investors at all. I'm just against the people who are investing in them thinking that you don't need to watch them. And they're not doing due diligence, and they're spreading the word that this is the best thing since sliced bread, and other investors are actually getting hurt or deceived by it. Yeah.
So
exactly.
I'm guessing the answer to this question here is probably no. Danny asks, you've had so many interviews with people that mostly do invest in these covered call ETFs. Are you ready to buy into them yourself?
And you know what, Danny? I love all of them, and they've taught me so much. And they continue to teach me so much because, personally, I'm not, as entrenched in those ETFs. I understand them. I'm looking into them. I work in the space to do so. But personally, as an investor, when I take the professional lens off, right, I'm like, okay, let's just focus on Ari. Ari's my investor profile says you're not ready for them yet. You don't need them yet. There's a time and a place. So Danny, 100%, I love those investors, and I think they have powerful stories. I think there's even a need for some of them. I had someone on a couple of weeks ago. He was in debt. He needed immediate cash flow. And what did he invest into? Income producing ETFs. He got his income out of them. And then he decided that he needed to re-strategize. And so I think it's just all about recognizing your own position. And really, you got to understand your goal. It is exciting. These guys bringing in, and some of these guys have the goal to retire next year or a couple of years from now. It makes sense for them. It doesn't make any sense for me, though, because I'm a workhorse. I'm going to be working for a while because I love it. And I'm just going to be growing this portfolio. Eventually, I recognize that the more money I have and the more money I'm able to make before I transition into income producing, the better off I'm going to be. I mean, imagine throwing millions of dollars, which, by the way, if I don't, I told this to you before, I'm going to say it again because it's applicable here. If I took all my money, so the $304,000 that I have in my account, my brokerage account right now, and I just put it into the S&P and I say, forget about it. I won't even look at it. I won't touch it. I'll just let it compound annually at around 10%. That's about $11 million by the time I retire, around 65 years old. And I don't add a single penny to it. Nothing. I do nothing. Imagine me taking now that at 65 and then rolling that all into income producing ETFs. We're talking money. And I think that is a strategy on how to do it. I don't need the income now, but somebody else might be in a different position. Everybody, to each their own. There's no disrespect coming from me to any investors out there who need that income, who want that income. If you're retired, there's definitely a place and the opportunity for you to look really heavily into them, but just be careful.
Yeah, I want to go back to Spartacus's question because I think this part's true no matter whether or not you are retired, but I think it's more important if you are retired. The main thing that you want to keep in mind, or the main thing that you should be seeking, is obviously ample income enough to cover your expenses, but also safe income. At the end of the day, like, you still want to be able to sleep well at night knowing that income is going to be protected. And it's probably more important for someone in your stage of the game who is retired, because you're actually relying on that income. So I think the same rules still apply here. I think, yeah, it can make sense to pursue higher yields if that's going to, because the income is of a higher priority, but still you don't want to be on the receiving end of any dividend cuts or reductions in that income. And I also think you don't want to neglect growth, still, because, inflation still exists. Things will still continue to get expensive over time. So you want to not only make sure that your income is enough to cover your expenses, that income is safe and is at as low risk of possible as being reduced, but also that it's continuing to grow over time. And so I think you need to strike that balance between all three, and build a portfolio that can offer all of those things. So that's my final take on all that.
Wealth preservation at that point in time, like it's most important in my opinion. And I'm managing my mother's, retirement account, and it's really important not to mess around with your money. Don't take these big bets. You can't afford that anymore. I don't know. I don't know the position that you're in. I don't know the position that anybody's in, out there. But what I can tell you, generally speaking, is that when you're retired, you can't risk what you were obviously able to risk, 30, 40 years ago. And so you need to play it safer, which means that you should automatically be looking into the funds that are going to be able to pay you out, but also help you preserve that wealth over the longer span of time of your retirement, and so on and so forth. I also think that, it's okay as well if you do have growth positions or even just the S&P 500. Again, the 4% rule, it's charm, right? And so if you live by that 4% rule, it's okay to be just invested in the S&P if that's the strategy. It's okay to be invested into some of these other ETFs that are out there that aren't these high income earning ETFs that are more volatile. Don't let the yield, swoon you into investing in them because you're seeing all the hype around income. There's other strategies to get your money in your pocket when you need it.
Read the prospectus.
Yes, seriously, read the prospectus. Just do that. No one does that. No one does it.
Yeah, I mean, Unfortunately, like especially with some of these, they're just so prevalent that it's become a thing where people will just buy them because it seems like that's just the thing you do. But you have to know your reasoning for why you're buying something. You have to look under the hood and make sure it makes sense to even put your money into it. You got to read the prospectus yourself and then make your own determination. You cannot outsource your convictions. You cannot let other people think for you. I can't I can't, and that doesn't just apply to your portfolio, by the way. That also extends way beyond your portfolio. That's true anywhere. You have to think for yourself, and I can't tell you how important that is.
And by the way, I've had a lot of Canadian investors on who invest into those high income funds. They have different tax benefits. So you also have to be aware, for those of you watching Masters of the Market, which investors who are on that are from Canada, which are from the United States. They all talk about taxes in different capacity. So that's something else that's interesting. It's like you got to understand the tax implications. You got to understand your personal needs based on your profile, where you are at in life. It's all about you. It's not about other investors.
Absolutely. So, man, we've got I have 4 really good questions saved for us that I pulled here from the chat. Why don't we go through these? The first one is from our man Fast Eddie, who wants to know, do either one of you currently have bonds? I think I know the answer. I know the answer for you, but what do you think, man? What's your take
50%
on
in
bonds?
bonds. No, I'm just
50%. Yeah, there you go.
No, I have Eddie. I have 0 bonds because, again, my investor profile right now just makes no sense for me to have them. And I understand that people like to, whether they're trying to time the market or we're in a state of flux, they will gravitate towards bonds. But I just think that if you are not nearing retirement, you don't need to play it that safe. And you're better off, in my opinion, continuing to keep your money in equities that are going to grow over the span of time.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't have any bonds on my end. I do have a decent chunk of change sitting in a high yield savings account right now, but that's only because and I've talked about this before, but my wife and I have been saving to buy a car. So all of our savings is in that high yield savings account that is collecting about or generating about 3.75% per year in interest. And I'm adding to that every single month, a couple times a month, actually. So that's probably the closest thing that I have to bonds. Otherwise, like Ari said, it's just, yeah, I'd rather just keep it all in stocks and equities and
Not
get income from
not to
that.
say bonds are bad, by the way.
Yeah, right.
Again, I don't want anyone to think we're bashing bonds. Just doesn't make sense for our individual portfolio profiles.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe if I had like $11 million like Ari's going to have someday, I would consider putting it in bonds just to really, really be protective and preserve it. And it's crazy to think too. I want to crunch the numbers real quick. So let's say you had $11 million, and what would make sense for like bond yields right now? Could you get over 5%, you think, in bonds? Maybe just under 5?
I would have to check. I don't even want to. Let's see.
Let's just say you can get a 4% yield, like bond yield. Maybe you could probably get more than that for sure, but let's say 4% on $11 million. Dude, that is $440,000 coming in every single year.
What did you say? I'm looking at the 3-month at least.
Oh, I just did 4%.
You were almost on the money, man. We got bonds coming at 4.22 and 4.1, so very
Okay.
close.
Yeah,
12
dude.
months still
So,
at
okay. Well,
3.3.
so even at 4.1%, you might be 4.2%. You're looking at $500,000 or so on an $11 million portfolio. That's crazy. I wouldn't even know how to spend that much money. I really wouldn't.
I wouldn't. Just again, my end goal is really just it's the infinite game, right? I'm good, right? I know. I mean, eventually it's finding a wife out there in the world and kids and the whole nine. But I just know the guy that I am, and I'm just very simple, man. I'm a billionaire because I'm simple, and
Yeah.
that makes me very, very wealthy. I don't need to have all this stuff to pretend to feel a certain way. Like I'm full,
Yeah.
So my infinite game is like, I want to give it away, give it to my grandkids, give it to, charities. And I want to be very involved in the community and all. Like that to me is really living.
Yeah.
So how would I spend some? Just keep enjoying life, giving it away, helping to
Hmm.
build.
Yeah. Yeah, I know one thing that my wife and I probably for sure would do is we probably would eat out more. Like I bet we'd go to Cafe Rio instead of once a week or once every couple weeks. I bet we'd go 3, 4 times a week. But honestly, like
The big
maybe just get a
splurge.
nicer car or something and nicer house and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know anything crazy beyond that. I don't even know if I'd want to, because I'd always thought it'd be fun to have like a beach house or something someday in Newport Beach. We love it there. But as I get older and the more I think about that, the more I think like, man, it's just it would be too much of a hassle to own something like that. The upkeep on it, I just don't know if it'd be worth it. I'd rather just whenever I want to go, just rent a place, make it easier. You know what I
Isn't
mean?
it funny how that changes over time? Like,
Yeah.
I remember being in my teenage years. I want a big house. I want, 6-car garage. And now today I'm like, I don't need any of it. I'm good. You know,
Yeah,
but like
absolutely.
I'm getting the money to be able to do all these things, and it's like, nah, don't need it
Yeah.
at all. Don't want it. I'm happy. I'm satisfied. Simple is, I think, the most important.
Well, that's a good sign, man. And that's attitude and that feeling is going to protect you from really what becomes a lot of people's downfall when they make more money is that lifestyle inflation. So just being satisfied right now with the things you have and wanting what you've got instead of, wanting what you don't have is
Alfredo
it
just
makes a bit.
tossed in a 20.
Oh my gosh, the Mr. McNugget over here. Alfredo, thank you, man. Thank you so much. By the way, I don't know if I shared this, but I did go to In-N-Out Burger last week. I don't know if I already shared that with you, but we did do that. So
That was the big splurge for the week.
yeah.
Look, I'll tell
Alfredo,
you,
thank you.
I'm pretty sure I'll be in Albania next week.
Oh, really?
And then yeah, so this is a part of my big splurge, right? It's like I like to go travel. I know you don't like to travel as much. I like to go travel, be in Albania. I'm going to make my way over to New York City. I'll be in Philly for a buddy's wedding. And then I think potentially Miami. I'll see my father, and I'm going to fly out to Greece. So, I mean, a nice long trip coming up for myself.
So
And that's how I like to spend money.
you're finally getting that vacation. Finally.
Yeah, there's some business mixed in, but
Oh,
here and there's some vacation. Because I always got to think about the dog. I'm like, all right, I don't like to put her into the dog camp
yeah.
and go through the whole nine. The van comes to pick her up and the whole thing. I'm like, if I stretch this out, I'd rather her stay there in comfort for longer than me come back. And it's like this back and forth thing for her. So yeah, I'm gonna tack on, like I said, Albania, Greece, little trip in the US, and we're gonna have a good time. But that's how I like to splurge, and I'm not just going to any hotel in Albania. I'm going to a nice spa, man. And I think the same. Actually, I was supposed to speak at a big conference in Cyprus, and that didn't happen. And I had booked in Mykonos, a beautiful hotel, man. So I just didn't get to go on that whole trip, and so that's why I'm going to go to Mykonos and conclude my splurge in Mykonos.
Okay. Well, nice, man. That'll be good. You deserve that.
This is really what it's all about, I think. Because I'll mention it. Financial insecurity, I think, is so big for a lot of people, and such huge weight off my back and shoulder is when I did that calculation of taking all my money, putting into the SP, never adding a dime or a penny, and getting 11 million by the time I retire. I mean, that's crazy. Absolutely crazy. But it's taken so much weight and pressure off me that I'm like, oh, cool. I'll just go do this now. Like, man, I even started, I know you know this, but I'll just share it with everybody out there. On my Instagram channel, I'm starting something new and I'm having a lot of fun with it. But it's more like, letting people into my actual life through like the mindset and my day-to-days, and like waking up at 4 a.m. and running and like doing all this stuff.
A lot of it is
But
just Ari brushing his teeth. It's just
yeah.
clip after clip. brushing teeth, a little bit of flossing in there
Combing
too.
the hair, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing special. But no, you know, I started making these videos, and what I love about it is I'm watching now myself, and I'm like, man, you seem freer, you seem happier, and it all goes back to that day I ran those calculations, man.
And so when you say that it kind of lifted a weight off of your shoulders, is the difference that now you maybe feel a bit in that freedom that you feel, it's the freedom to spend and splurge more than you did before you made that calculation? Just knowing that even if I spent this today, I'll still be fine. Is that kind of the thought?
Yeah, I mean, look, I have a couple thoughts. You know, when I spoke at my grandmother's funeral a couple weeks back, you know, and I was having a good conversation with my dad, and that whole event, right? The one takeaway was you don't want to be the richest man in the cemetery,
Mm.
because I mean, what are you going to do, right? So I love that. You don't want to be the richest man in the cemetery. You obviously need to plan ahead and be responsible and have retirement savings, et cetera, et cetera. But at the same time here, you got to live. You got to live life. And I didn't do enough of that in my, you know, teenage years. You know, I not a great outlook on life then, and then working hard just to make money as a young 20-something-year-old. And that outlook wasn't healthy. The chase. I love talking to people about the chase. They think they know something. And the thing for me is, like, I've been on that chase. There's nothing there. There's nothing on that chase that's going to actually gift you with peace of mind, with like your heartbeat. Like, there's just so much wealth, man, and being able to be in peace and knowing that everything's going to be okay. And that comes from being responsible. I'm not saying blow all your money like YOLO. And I'm also not
Mhm.
saying save all your money, right? There's got to be that balance. And I wish I ran all these calculations earlier. Okay, if I get to this, I get to this, I get that, right? But I think about it now, man. That's just it's insane. It's insane. Don't add a penny more.
So So this is actually a great lead into a question that I think we got it on a previous video in the comments. And it also kind of ties into Jose's question right here, talking about or asking us if we can talk about how to spend money. This comment that we got is from Christian Brown, who wants to know, how do you balance living life now and saving for the future? How do you balance that? And he says, for context, I currently save 50% of my income and have 3% dedicated to fund money. So yeah, how do you strike that balance? And I want to like add a bit more context to this and say, first and foremost, outside of investing, non-investors and investors have the opposite problems. Non-investors are out of balance on one side where they spend too much and they don't save enough. Investors are typically on the opposite end of that spectrum. They typically don't spend enough and they're saving everything for their future. And so it's a good question. How do you balance that? And also just adding on to that, and I know for a lot of us investors, saving money doesn't feel like it's a sacrifice. You actually do it because you enjoy it and because it's fun and you like seeing your portfolio grow and it's a hobby and stuff like that. But still, it's like there's more to life outside of the spreadsheets as you were describing, Ari. So how do you strike that balance between the two?
Yeah, I can tell you. I'll speak to two different Aris. The Ari that was very unhealthy, that was all in it for money, that, you know, was on the chase, needed to be a millionaire by 30. You know, it's all hogwash. And it puts you in a position, I think it just sets you up for failure. And it's not a healthy approach. You can do it, and I'm not here to stop you. Probably the people who are doing it are going to continue to live that way until they experience what I experienced, which is a loss instead of a gain. And I'm not just talking about like a little loss. Like it's you realize, you wake up one day and you realize that you've pissed away your life because you were on a chase for money. That's crazy. Like, you decided not to do certain things because of money. and you'll never get that time back. And then like you really, I don't know. I just, when I go and think about certain, aspects of whether it's finance or where I go deep, I go really deep into it. Like it's not enough for me to be like, oh, why am I investing? Because I have to save for retirement. No, why am I investing? Because I want to create a difference in my future kids' world, in my grandkids' world, right. And I'll go really, why that? Where did that come from? And I'll go really deep on that. So I will make sure it's in concrete. And reason why I'm getting to this is because I don't think enough people are actually really understanding why they're even saving the way that they're saving. A lot of times, from experience of even working with addicts and depressives, anxiety, all the thing, the stuff, it's fear. You're not good enough. You won't be able to make it. You're never going to have enough. And it's all bull crap, right? It's all bull crap. It's an abundance mindset one can obtain to say, I can enjoy life and spend as well. Don't go overboard. That's the healthy approach. And if you I gamified it for a while. I did the same things, 50% savings rate, 60%, and then I like realized how much I was missing out on. And like, again, okay, you're, let's say $11 million by retirement, and then you die. Cool. I don't know what else to say. Like, cool, you had 11 mil, what'd you do? Like, did you enjoy any of it? No. That's my take on it. What do you think?
Well, I'm trying to remember what the original question was. To be honest with you,
striking the balance.
How do you strike the balance? Thank you.
Your mind's on In-N-Out Burger, man. It's fine.
Honestly, I'd be lying if I said that it wasn't. I hadn't had it for last week. Was my second time having it since like January.
Fine. I'm thinking about these Crunch bars after we're done here.
And since then, dude, it's just I'm craving it all over again. But no, as far as finding that balance, I don't know that I have too much more to add to that. I do think that you probably do have to go through a period where you don't have that balance. And that's actually, I'm going to tie it back to Charlie Munger's whole $100,000 quote. He said, like, you have to do whatever you can. You have to walk everywhere. You can't eat out. You have to do whatever the heck you can do until you get your hands on $100,000. And then once you do that, you can kind of ease off the gas a little bit and kind of ease up a little bit. And so I do think that there is a point, there is a period where it's okay to just go in the hole and be so fixated on reaching that goal. But you can't, I also don't think you can build your entire life around that forever. It's going to have some negative impacts. I think kind of like you were saying, at the end of the road, once you have that 11 mil and you're on your deathbed, if that's all your life has amounted to, I think you'll be left feeling pretty unfulfilled. And so, in this guy's case, in Christian's case, he said he had a 50% savings rate. He had a 3% dedicated to fund money. It's like, well, dude, you're in such a great position to, spend more if you want to. If you feel like you want to have more fun things or splurge a bit more, you're in a great position to do that because you're already able to save so much of your income. And I think it starts there. It just starts with having a budget and knowing where your money's going and just making sure that you can cover all your bills first and foremost. And then also, beyond that, you also want to reverse engineer, kind of like you've done with your portfolio, projecting it into the future. You kind of want to reverse engineer your portfolio and know, I want to retire or stop working or be able to use my investments when I'm this old. It's going to take me this many years. And so you kind of back into it. And by knowing the timeline, how long it's going to take you to get there, be conservative with the growth projection. That's going to tell you how much you'll need to invest every single week or every single month. And so as long as you're able to comfortably do that, then I think investing any amount above that, it's just going above and beyond, and that's fine. That's great. But it's also important to know that if you don't go above and beyond, you're still going to hit your goals. Like in Ari's case, even if he doesn't contribute another penny, he's going to be just fine. Um, but that's also only because he's done the upfront work to get to that point where now not the contributions, now the portfolio itself and the compound effect can do a lot of the heavy lifting moving forward. And it takes work to get to that point for sure. And so all of that is to say, let's just boil it down to a simple 3-step process. Okay. Number one is get a budget in place, know where you're spending, just know what's coming in, what's going out, where everything's going. Number two, reverse engineer your portfolio back into retirement. Know what it's going to take and how much you need to contribute to get to where you want to go in that desired timeline. Once you have those two things figured out and you're able to contribute that amount to your portfolio, which should be included in your budget, man, anything else above that is anything outside of that is fair game. Do what you want with it. Be smart, don't go crazy. Don't be buying Gucci t-shirts every month, obviously, but just let yourself have some fun. And I think that's probably the hardest part. And like I said, a lot of us investors, we do such a good job of saving and already budgeting and knowing where our money's going and putting as much as we can into our portfolios. But it gets to a point where you start to feel guilty for not doing more. You always feel like you could be doing more, you should be doing more. And I think it's easy to feel guilty for spending money outside of your portfolio because you have Warren Buffett in your head telling you what that dollar that you just spent could turn into 20 or 30 years down the road. But it also just goes back to what Ari said, just knowing your goals, knowing your why. Are you trying to be the next Warren Buffett? Probably not. And so it's okay to let loose.
Let's just talk about that for a moment. Warren Buffett wasn't trying to be Warren Buffett. Like he wasn't in it like to become the world's richest man. He was just being Warren Buffett. Just so happened that the guy liked math and numbers, and he loved investing. It's just what he loved.
Yeah, and he was just obsessed with the game. Like it wasn't a means to an end for him.
How old is he's 90 what? 97 or something?
No, I think he's like 92.
92? All right. Archaic, nonetheless. Old guy working until his 90s. And most of you out there who are like, oh, I want to retire early, you don't really love investing. Come on, give me a break. If your end goal is to, be retired and on the beach, you don't really love investing. You love yourself. Let me just put it that way. Like, let's just be real. I like people who are just real. I like people who are real. And it's fine to love yourself and to want to be on the beach, but you just say that. Don't say, I love investing. I love my job. It's like you don't, though. You really just love yourself and you want to get to your goals, whether it's on the beach or whatever it is. And that's totally fine. But the moment you're transparent, you enter a true moment of clarity, you'll be able to see the pathway forward much easier for yourself. Again, you go back to the young income investors, and they're like, I just want to retire early. It's like, dude, you just started, man. Like, what are you're retiring at 22? What are you going to do for the rest of your life? Yeah. So I just think about that sometimes. I'm like, man, people, we love ourselves so damn much. I think one of the things, I was just out with a buddy of mine today, and he's going through a job thing, and I was listening to him think. One thing I love to do when I speak to people is just listen to them speak. And I'm like playing chess with their words. I'm like, he said this, and then he said this, and then he went back to this, and he went back to this. This guy doesn't know what the hell he wants. He doesn't really know what he's saying. I like to speak with clarity, with directness. And before I'm making bold statements, they're really, really actually thought out. Like a chess player, thinking 3 steps or 3 moves ahead, right? 10 moves, whatever. You see the whole board. No one's looking at the whole board, man. They just retire early. I love money. Even that statement. You don't really love money. You love yourself. You love what money can do for you. So I think it's just about getting to the grassroots of what you really want out of this thing. Will then help you with clarity and will help you invest accordingly. and you get sidetracked when you're unclear.
Sidetracked in the sense that like you start making worse
Well,
decisions.
it's an illusion. Most of these income producing funds for people paying you, return of capital, ROC, your own money back to you. It's like, hey, Mr. Monopoly, I hand you this, you hand me my own money back, so to speak. And so you got to be careful. You got to read the prospectus. You got to know what you're doing. Go back to the prospectus. But, again, I just go back to, I just like to listen to people. I love Masters of the Market because I get to listen to people. I get to learn from people. I get to watch people. I love studying people. And it's funny, man. It's funny. Life is a big show. My sister actually just the other night had texted me a picture when I was a little kid, and I had this oversized box of popcorn, and I was holding it. I barely even hold the thing, but I was laughing to myself because these days I like to say literally like life is like a big movie. I'm just happy these days I get to watch the show and enjoy it. And that's how I feel, and I'm like, hey, there's that little kid who like, now I'm saying I just watch the show and enjoy it. Maybe it started back then, but it's true. I'm watching every day, listening every day to people saying X, doing Y. Why are you doing that? Oh, because this. It's like, no, you really just have fear, or like you really just love yourself.
Well, do you think maybe that mismatch is them saying what they think the person that they're talking to wants to hear?
No, I genuinely believe they're out to try to get what they want, but I just think they're so clouded that they don't even hear themselves sometimes. They haven't really, again, that chess, not everybody can go out there and play a good game of chess. And I think that's so important to play chess in life. I feel like every day of my life I'm playing a great game of chess, because it's thinking. Before I say this, let me think about it. Before I do this, let me think about it. And by the way, this comment coming in from Momentum Finance. How's it going, Mo?
Shout out, Mo.
I was just interviewed on his channel, and you let us know when that interview is coming out. I think it's coming out today, but you'll get a lot more of my mindset on that, on everything I just spoke of. But it was a phenomenal conversation because we got to this very topic. And I think it's important. I think it's, missed for a lot of investors, as are a lot of things in life, concepts just overlooked,
The infinite game, it's always an interesting conversation. I mean, that's what investing is, but investing can be a means, an infinite game that you play is a means to play other infinite games. I don't even know if that makes sense, but like speaking personally, like when we talked about this last week or a couple weeks ago, what does the perfect day look like, right? If you could wake up, didn't have to worry about money, which is, a big goal for a lot of investors to not have to worry about money, just to have it coming in. What does your perfect day look like? Well, for me, a few different things were in there. It was like reading, which is an infinite game. Learning and acquiring wisdom is an infinite game. It was centered around working out as well. That's another infinite game. So for me, part of investing is to use it as a means to play these other infinite games. I want to make progress here so I can have more time to make progress over there.
I agree. I really love, like, my day today was so perfect, man. I woke up, had my morning routine and meditation, my workout, walked my dog, did some studying, some reading, some business, met with a couple of people for, 2 different time slots today for coffee and a good conversation about work or life or whatever they needed. There's nothing more I like, the guy one of the guys I met with today is going through some things, and it's like, buy him a coffee. He tried to pay for me. I was a kid, he's in the middle of a job transition. I'm like, get your broke butt out of here. But that's what I like doing, man. Again, it's like, I'm not making this for me. I had actually earlier today, I had a good month last month, really good month. And I was like, what am I, I'm going on these vacations or this vacation, but I don't believe in coincidences. So I woke up this morning with a voice note from a rabbi in Manhattan, and he's like, "I'm building this community." And we were already talking previously, but he was like, "Because you said you had a great month," he's like, "Would you be able to help me out with this?" And I'm like, "Oh man, like what an opportunity, and I can be a part of that. I can build this other community over, so it's just cool, man. Like I don't know, these things make me super happy, and knowing that, again, don't add another penny, make 11 mil, all my good months. I'm like, well, what else can I be doing out here that's going to really pay me?
Have you thought about becoming a vigilante? I think you could pull off a cape, man.
Yeah. Explain yourself.
Mo said
First, I thought you were joking.
To reflect on what Ryan just shared, we define how we find our meaning in life. P.S. The interview video with Ari was released a few moments ago, so folks can check that out after the live.
Oh.
Nice. I definitely will be doing so. And there was an episode with Russ that just came out too that I have on my watch list as well. Already. Yeah, I'm excited to get into that. So
Russ is such a great guy.
I know. I'd love to get him on. I'd love to get him on here. Russ and I have a text that I need to respond to from him. Kind of like you and me. Him and I talk quite a bit, and he's just a good dude. I'd love to get him on here at some point.
You know what? While we're at it, let's take a minute or so here to ask everybody out there, if you were to have an investor pop on with Ryan and I in the deep end, who would it be?
Well, even Mo. Mo would be good to have on here too.
Mo would be great. Great. Mo, you can vote for yourself in the chat.
Yeah, let us know who you guys would like to see here on the deep end. Obviously, I think our only guest so far has been Craig, SCHD Stan, but we would love to have more guests on here, more people to chat with, and bring more people in the deep end with us. So are you folks attending?
Ryan and I will try our best. I know that. I think I'll speak. Right, I don't want to speak for you directly, but it's always like we'll try our best.
Yeah, it's not going to happen for me, unfortunately. So all of the Blossom tours, which by the way, they have tours. They'll have events in New York City, in Chicago. I think I'm missing one, right? I think there's maybe one more that I'm missing there.
They got an event every week. I don't know. There's many events.
Yeah, there's one other that I'm forgetting, but I think they're all in October, and that's like right when my wife and I are going to be having the baby. Due date's October 9th, so I just don't.
October 12th is my birthday, so I come to. I want to, pop into New York to celebrate with everybody.
Yeah,
not really my birthday, but it just so happens to align.
So I don't think you'll be seeing me this year, but I'd love to make it next year. I think that'd be fun. I'd love to. I thought they were going to do one in Vegas, but I don't think that's going to be the case this year. Unfortunately,
you never know.
You never
really.
know.
I mean, I feel like there's so many events.
LA is the third one. I don't know why I couldn't think of that.
LA is the third one?
Yeah. So Chicago, New York, and Los Angeles. Yeah.
I'd love to come to LA. When's that?
I want to say, okay, I don't quote me on this, guys, but I think New York might be the 12th, October 12th. I could be very wrong. I'm close though. So 12th for New York. I think Chicago's the 14th. And then I think LA's maybe like 4 days after Chicago. They're all pretty close to one another.
I'm going to be like a Blossom groupie. go to each one.
Yeah. Okay. So here in the chat, we've got Russ. Chris says Craig. We did have Craig on. I think we need to put Mo on the list. Jose said Professor
G's
G
out there.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll reach out. But for anybody else who's not, Ian, PPC Ian, for anybody else who's not right now here, oh, yeah, that would be a
Bert
crazy
Lanny,
one.
The Diplomats. Yeah. That would be wild.
That'd be just crazy. That would be like the Brady bunch, the Dividend bunch.
Dude, it would be
all
chaos.
The broken screens.
Yeah, exactly.
What was I going to say? For anybody watching out there right now that's not watching this live, definitely drop a comment below to let us know who you feel you'd want to see on with us. And we will always do our best to reach out to these individuals and invite them on. We are all inclusive here in the deep end, getting deep with anybody and everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Spencer invests. I just spoke to him the other day. Actually, earlier this morning. Spencer would love to join us.
Okay, cool. I'm writing all of this down. So, Spencer, we got Mo. Who else am I missing? Joseph Carlson. That one's going to be a tall order. I doubt he'd ever
Hey, if
do
we
it. But we'll
make
put him on
enough
the list.
noise, and by we, I mean all of us collectively, you can
Yeah.
flag Joseph Carlson down.
Professor G. Okay, cool. Got the list.
We're good to go.
Bert and Lanny, got to put him on there too. Okay. Any last words before we wrap this up?
Read the prospectus. I'm gonna end there.
Tattoo it right there.
Yeah.
No,
Before
guys.
you go to that Blossom event, read the prospectus.
Yeah. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us this last hour and 10 minutes. Another fun episode, another fun live stream. This has been such a great format for us. And we're so stoked to have all of you guys in here, live action, in real time, in the deep end with us. Hope you all have a fantastic rest of your week. Hope things are good on the market for you. Keep up the good work. We'll see you in the next one. Ari, any last words? Or
You know my last
good?
word.
Read the
Read the
RTP.
prospectus.
RTP. Never forget.
There we go.
Put it on your knuckles. So
that's how I'm coming to the next event. Read the prospectus.
Just all thugged out with your do-rag. All right. You guys all have a good day. We will see you in the next one. Take care.